Well, tell me, Franz, mein Freund, how do I get all the pallets with our Sci-Fi News DE shirts to the second floor?
You idiot, what is there to think about? Just use the transporter beam, you idiot.
No. I still have meatloaf from yesterday in the buffer, and I would still like to eat it.
Well, the only buffer I know about is from the real player.
Well, okay, all hail to the ghoul, baby.
And let's watch the intro.
And now, evil gets an upgrade. This is the Sci-Fi News Video Review with your hosts, Daniel and Jens.
Hey guys, thank you very much for joining us for this week's edition of the Sci-Fi News Video Review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The third episode, Ghosts of Illyria, is upon us. And first off, I have to excuse the very low audio and video quality this week. The German perspective is in fact brought to you from Switzerland this week. Grüezi da draußen. We are broadcasting from a hotel room. Here's some evidence of the hotel room.
Nice. We conquered Switzerland. Yeah.
Jawohl! We've got a small laptop that's constantly overheating. We got two battery-driven lights, a cell phone, and a portable green screen. So this week's quality is a little bit worse than usual. Well, but what is not worse is this week's episode, Ghosts of Illyria. Hans, take it away.
Thank you, Franz. Yeah, after the trailer for Ghosts of Illyria, it was easy to assume that this would be a classic disease of the week episode with the usual progress and predictable ending. Due to transporter malfunction, part of the away team brings a virus on board, which then spreads rapidly among the crew while Captain Pike and Spock fight for survival on the planet. But the writers have obviously put some thought into it and not only avoid often criticized mistakes, quite the opposite. They transform a predictable story into a good episode through character moments, some creative tricks, and the sensible picking up of known events. How often have we criticized that traumatic events of the crew are simply dealt with in a minor sentence in order to legitimize some questionable decisions? This week, Una's secret takes center stage. Her secret, that he is Illyrian and genetically enhanced, is not dealt with between the turbolift and the bridge. No, it shapes the episode and also contributes to the resolution of the plot. The authors skillfully connect the events on the Enterprise with the discoveries that Pike and Spock make on Hatamid 9. The stereotypical image that the Federation has of genetically enhanced beings begins to crumble when Spock learns about the colony on the planet in the archive. Una also contributes to this when she reports that not all genetically enhanced beings have a tendency to rule. Illyrians simply want to adapt to their natural environment instead of adapting a planet to the needs of the inhabitants by terraforming. The inhabitants adapt to the living conditions of the planet by genetic changes. How much resources and energy could we save if the current discussion about genetic engineering would be conducted differently? The episode plays cleverly and in a classic Star Trek manner with the prejudices and their unmasking. It is also interesting that the inhabitants of the colony do not play an active role, but are only indirectly put in a different light by Spock's finding from the archive and Una's action and statements. The atmosphere of the planet supports the storytelling in a very good way. With few means, the viewer is shown the image of an abandoned colony whose inhabitants have obviously fallen victim to a catastrophe. In the end, the Illyrians on Hatamid 9 fell victim to their desire to join the Federation. By reserving their genetic enhancement, they could not survive on their own planet. The desire to be part of something, socially as well as culturally, no longer to be excluded, ends in a dilemma. To fulfill the conventions of a superior power, one's own extinction is a consequence, a strong, relevant allegory. Una's personal fate is predictable, but unlike usual in current discourse, she voluntarily offers her resignation and is willing to accept the consequences, because no matter how well her actions are judged in retrospect, she knows that she's deliberately broke the rules. This is a trait that is missing more and more, especially in current political disputes. There, everything is set out until the end, lamented and relativized. She questions Captain Pike's motives, whether he would have reacted the same way if she had not been the hero, if her differences had not been revealed in the context of good deeds. That we often overcome our prejudices and fears more quickly and even act in hypocritical ways because we only allow people to reveal their identity if we associate something positive with it for us is also a fact in our progressive society. Genetic enhancement are not shown in a mostly negative light for the first time in the main canon of Star Trek. Yes, the topic had already been addressed positively by Dr. Bashir's outing in Deep Space Nine and also served a strong character development. But in the later episode, statistical probabilities made it clear that many people with genetic enhancement cannot lead normal, self-determined lives. I really liked 80% of the episode. Unfortunately, I have to downgrade the episode a bit due to the fact that they tried to squeeze too much plot into 45 minutes towards the end. The revelation about Dr. Mbenga and his daughter were not necessary at all and could have been the content of another episode. Even with completed story, it's perfectly acceptable to go back to earlier events and continue the story elsewhere. This slightly dims the overall impression of the otherwise very well done episode. I rate Ghosts of Illyria 3.5 out of 5. And now back to my friend Franz.
Thank you, Hans. Highly appreciate it. And I have to say, I really like the overall tone of this week's episode. Exploration, despite harsh conditions, always on the lookout for knowledge. True to the mission statement to explore strange new worlds. After all those episodes of Discovery and Picard, it is so refreshing to finally see some of the core aspects of Star Trek again. Let's talk about the good doctor here. Doc Mbenga gets one of the most tragic and in a way utterly mad twists to his character early on in this season. It's absolutely beyond me why the authors chose to reveal such a big, huge personal tragedy in the final 5 minutes of this episode, where the focus had been on number one all the time. Especially because a reveal like this should be built up over 1 or 2 or 3 episodes and really focus on his character. The good doctor has been absent from last week's episode altogether, and now he gets drama worth an entire season, or at least compressed into a few minutes of this episode. While the idea of having his daughter frozen in time within the transporter buffer as a last resort to save or prolong her life, well, it again tarnishes a little bit of the character motivation for another crew member, in my opinion. So the good doctor is not really out there to explore strange new worlds, but to save his daughter. And while he's obviously doing it the Starfleet way, with the Starfleet values, this only saves, in the end, his own personal goal. And I've criticized heavily how the second season of Star Trek Picard deconstructed the beloved captain, who according to the second season was not out there to better himself or others, but to compensate for his childhood. And this story arc with the Doctor here falls a little bit in the same category. We do not get to see a Doctor who is motivated by his personal moral compass, which points in the right direction. but only to save his daughter. I really hope that this is, well, a one-time lapse, and the tendencies with Discovery and Picard are not repeated in Star Trek Strange New Worlds as well. Also, I have to ask, how dumb is that idea in general? Ever heard of a ship losing power, of a Klingon attack, or general maintenance and the cleaning person coming by? Why isn't his daughter in a maximum security medical facility on Earth somewhere, where she could be cared for, and where power supply is guaranteed of sorts? Well, but speaking about the visuals and the looks of this episode, I really liked the technical aspects of Star Trek Strange New Worlds so far. It is light years beyond Star Trek Picard and Discovery. The very elegant use of the AR light wall as an outer projection of the stars, subtle backgrounds, is really decent and enhances each scene. Consistent cinematography is also a plus, and it's really good to see a non-shaking camera in modern Star Trek. We've also seen more of the Enterprise within a single episode than of the Discovery in all the seasons of Discovery combined in this episode. To this day, I do not know how the layout of the USS Discovery engine room really looks like. Ghosts of Illyria managed to portray a good representation of a really great and huge spaceship. Well, and the good Mr. Hammer got some criticism from the wokeverse this week in the internet. Too cocky, too condescending, for commanding his staff with a snap of finger. And I beg to differ. He shows clear leadership skills here and can rely on a staff that supports him without a doubt, as it should be. But if you feel differently, please let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate you taking the time to writing to us. And to sum it up, I really liked and enjoyed the overall message of this week's episode. Be true to yourself. Changing too much about yourself will eventually lead to your destruction. The Illyrians strive to change themselves to please others, to please the environment, and that, in fact, led to their doom. And Una is conflicted here to lose all she worked so hard to achieve. But Captain Pike, and this is the great thing about this episode, he couldn't care less about her heritage. He only sees what's in front of him and chooses to ignore the past, the bias, the cut and dried opinions. And for once, this is a true positive message to think about. He treats her exactly as everyone else. He does not even have to think about it. How many times have you personally out there heard the phrase, yeah, this person is a Mexican, a black dude, a homosexual, but he or she is hardworking, alright, integrated, and not like the others. How often have you heard that phrase? And Pike doesn't make his argument at all this way. He does not differentiate between race, origin, gender, or anything else. He treats her as an equal and simply says, Ona, you're okay. And I want to believe that there are in this present time many people out there like Captain Pike who do not care or even think about where someone else is from, what their so-called historical baggage is. And this is the true power of Star Trek here, to show us a world where there is no exception, where everyone is equal, a world that should make you think about yourself and your own perception about others that are different from you and from different parts of the world and who live by different preferences. And how you should not think about these people in these terms, but simply accept them as human beings. The Ghosts of Illyria warmed my cold German heart, and I rate this episode a stunning 4 out of 5 from the German perspective.
What?
Jawohl! Well, thank you guys if you've joined us for this week's episode of the Sci-Fi News video review called The German Perspective in English. Give us feedback in the comments below. Where can we improve? Where can we please you more? Should we rub your earlobes or put on nice dresses? Hans over there is a fashion expert, I hear. He's dressed in a traditional German soccer team.
Right.
Tell me about it, Hans.
Yeah, it's a jersey of Eintracht Frankfurt. Yeah, my favorite soccer club. I know outside Europe and especially in the US market, soccer is not a big thing. But yeah, Eintracht Frankfurt won the Europa League on Wednesday. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I wear this jersey today. Proud,
representing. Well, good for you, Hans. And what would really be good for you if you subscribe to this channel, or we will send the ghoul for you. So hit the bell thingy, comment, like, and subscribe, and see you next week, guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.